Most women, when they hear this topic, control, they're like, oh no, I'm not controlling. That might not be creating a great effect.
Instead of saying what you're thinking, avoiding conversation or walking out of the room or refusing to engage with your husband when you're dissatisfied with his behavior, his actions, or the way he's showing up in the relationship.
My way is the best way, and you're supposed to be like me, even though you are a completely different human being. In that, I missed all of my husband's strengths and things that I didn't have when I thought that it was supposed to be my way, or my way was the best way. If you are a wife that wish your husband did more, that he helped more, that he showed up more, that he just was the leader of the house, then this video is for you. And if you're a husband watching and you feel like your wife doesn't create an environment where you can win and you just don't want to show up and you don't really understand why, this might give you some insights. I have a special expert guest with me today, Amber, who's one of our Rise Up Queens coaches, and she teaches on this topic of unhealthy control. And just when I say that, don't click away, because most women, when they hear this topic, control, they're like, oh no, I'm not controlling. We ask in our Rise Up Queens event, we ask 100 women almost every time, and 5 to 10 of them say, yeah, I think I'm controlling. And they're what we call active controllers. We're also going to talk about passive control, because after Amber goes through these 8 points on each side, almost every single woman in the room raises her hand afterward and says, oh, I think I might be contributing to my marriage in an unhealthy way. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Actually, I've never done an event where we didn't have someone find a controlling behavior that they associate with or use in their marriage or in other relationships. So I think this is just such an eye-opening topic that can help find out how you're contributing to the discomfort in your marriage.
Yeah. So we're going to start with passive control, because most of the time women want to be helpful. They want to show up and they think they are being helpful, but unknowingly it's creating an environment where your husband doesn't want to lean in and doesn't want to show up. So the first passive way is asking leading questions. I know you have a good one for that.
Yeah. Like, is that what you're going to wear to church? Or is that what you're eating for lunch today?
Those just don't make him like, wait, what? Wait. Is that what you're eating for lunch? The question would be to control. Are you trying to change what he's doing? Or what would the intention of that question? Are you wearing that to church? There's just almost this inherent, I don't approve of it, without actually saying it. Giving your husband the look. Yeah, exactly.
That's my look.
Yeah. So you know your look, ladies, whatever that is. If you give your children and your husband similar type looks, that might not be creating a great effect. Because imagine if he gave you that look, what that would feel like and what he would experience. We're like, ooh, you know what I mean? And it changes this dynamic almost and puts you in this mother and son role, but you don't want to be in that place. The silent treatment would be an obvious one.
Yeah. I mean, just instead of saying what you're thinking, avoiding conversation or walking out of the room or refusing to engage with your husband when you're dissatisfied with his behavior, his actions, or the way he's showing up in the relationship.
So it's like a silent treatment I'm going to use as a form of punishment to express my disapproval rather than putting it on my big girl panties and leaning into conflict. Silent treatment is easier for some people because they don't want to have to deal with conflict, but it doesn't create environment.
Yeah. And for me, this was something that I slid into by accident. I was using the justification in my head that I need time to process. I don't want to say something out of context. And while that's true, I did need those things. I extended that out of a form of punishment. My aim was no longer restoration and reconnection with my husband. My aim was let me allow him to feel the discomfort of this situation. And so just balancing my need for time to process and calming my nerves versus my aim becoming, I guess, vindictive.
Yeah, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to make you hurt, and you're going to feel this because I'm going to drag this out for so long. Another one is indirectly refusing requests or just not doing it.
This is so common. Your husband might be like, oh, did you feed the dog or feed the dog today? And then you just don't because maybe there's just that thing like, I didn't even want this dog. Why do we have this dog? You were the one who got the dog. So you're just inadvertently not doing things that he asks you to do rather than sharing what's underneath.
So again, you feel like you're in control because you don't have to share what's going on. For a lot of you, I get that use these, that it's uncomfortable to say what's actually going on or have hard conversations. And these behaviors help stay in control, but then the person that you're in relationship with feels controlled. Procrastination kind of goes in the same line, right? And if you just procrastinate and drag your feet, or responding with sarcasm or subtle digs.
Yeah, for me, I used to constantly say, well, we don't all have time to take a 20-minute poop. And that was just like my sarcastic dig at my husband that I would continually bring up because inside I was feeling jealous or overwhelmed or like I needed help, but I didn't express any of those things. I was just making those subtle digs at him.
So you felt a little bit depleted, or like you wanted 20 minutes to be alone without someone nagging you. And instead, instead of just coming out and saying, I need to be alone, or creating space for you to be alone.
Yeah.
I love that. So making excuses rather than just saying what's on your mind. I feel like we've said that's kind of underneath all of these.
Yeah, but a good example of this for me is that I have a contentious relationship with someone that we were going to meet with. And we were planning a trip. And rather than just talking about my fears or what was going on, I started giving logistical reasons like, oh, well, we might not find a babysitter, or if the kids go, they'll miss this, this, and this. So I was making excuses rather than talking about what was really going on for me and why I didn't want to go on the trip or my hesitations about the trip.
Rather than just saying,
What's underneath.
okay. And then the last one is giving a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I see you did the dishes finally.
How sweet, right? What could have been like, thank you so much, right? Thank you. It's rooted in this anger and this frustration. And again, I'm not gonna celebrate you or enjoy you. I feel like so many women are like, I'm not gonna tell him I appreciate him. I do all this.
Yeah, I do the dishes every day and nobody tells me thank you.
Yes, we've heard that a lot of times in an event. And so those were our passive ways that you can be controlling. I'd love to hear if you resonated with one or more of those. I'd love to hear those in the comments. And now we're going to go to the more active or assertive ways of control. First one being making helpful suggestions. And in itself, right, this seems like it should be a good thing. Wait, like making helpful suggestions, but
but it can come off very controlling. Just like I used to be very controlling with helpful suggestions in the kids' bedtime routine. Well, you should give them a bath first before you brush their teeth, and then give all the steps for suggesting the most peaceful bedtime.
And it doesn't create space for in doing that, although it does feel like it's helpful because this is what works for you. Your husband is a completely different person than you. And what if he wants to wrestle with them, or at least for Skylar, right? In our house, he wants to wrestle with them and get them all riled up. Someone ends up crying and then they go to bed. To me, that's not the ideal scenario, but that's how he parents. And so what feels like helpful, they can experience as control, because what if they want to do it another way? Like, who says that your way is the way? In a totally different scenario, another way to have assertive control is talking on your husband's behalf.
Yes, for sure. I used to interrupt Kyle when he was speaking if I thought what he was saying may come across as offensive or too harsh of a joke. And I would stop him and be like, oh, he doesn't really mean that, or he's just kidding, and he's so funny, and just constantly speak over him because I felt uncomfortable. And I wasn't allowing him to be who God created him to be and to connect with people on his level.
Yeah. Just constantly, if you're trying to manage his image right in front of other people, and you feel uncomfortable because you want them to see him in a certain light, and so you make these type of comments, at the end of the day is control versus just saying what's going on for you and not saying it in public, really.
Right.
So making decisions for your husband.
Yeah, I ordered for him at every restaurant. And so he didn't even decide what he was going to eat. And it got to be such a habit that he actually would ask me, what should I order? And so just those type of things of just deciding on his behalf, or answering when the hostess says, would you like to sit inside or outside? And me chiming in immediately inside or outside and not allowing him to step up into leadership or making the space for him to do that.
I feel like a woman watching this at this point would be like, but what's wrong with that, Amber? I do know what he wants, and I want to stay outside, so I'm going to say it. What do you think? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what do you think long term that would create for a relationship? Or what did you notice?
Yeah. So for me in my marriage, I noticed that we just created a dynamic where I made all of the decisions and I created no space for my husband to show up as a provider, a protector, and a leader. And so that co-created an environment where we were both unhappy. I felt overwhelmed, exhausted, resentful, and like I was having to manage everything. It created a sense of life or death for me in the smallest decisions. And for him, he began to feel unneeded, unwanted, disrespected because he didn't have space to show up for the leader and the provider and protector that God created him to be.
And so Amber's done some tremendous work in unwinding that because Kyle is a leader.
Yeah.
And you guys just got used to him not leading, and then you wanted him to, but then like you had to completely rework how to even do that because everything had been set up. Like he didn't even order his own food.
Yeah.
The next one would this is a little more obvious, but telling him how you do things.
Yeah. I mean, loading the dishwasher or how you buckle the kids in the car or what order you do those type of things. I would constantly inform Kyle of how I do things with the underlying expectation that he should do them the exact same way.
Yeah, I'm not self-righteous at all. I'm not saying you, but I mean, I
was. Pride was definitely something I struggled with.
Yeah, that my way is the best way and you're supposed to be like me, even though you were a completely different human being. And like in that, I missed all of my husband's strengths.
Yes.
And things that I didn't have when I thought that it was supposed to be my way or my way was the best way. Skylar is a big visionary person and I like all the details. And I thought it like in order for us to survive, Skylar had to learn all those details. Well, he's like, if I get stuck in all the details, I'll get bogged down and I'll get stuff. Like it's just not me. And so our compromise is if I'm not going to be in the business, then he has to put people around him to handle those details so he can go at the speed that he wants to. But I thought for the longest time, he has gotten more detail over the years, but that he had to be me and had to change.
Yeah. And for me, the gift I saw in our family life is just Kyle leading and protecting our children in a different way than I do, and just creating that space for our children to have two different parents that pour into them both in a loving way, but from a nurturing way from me and from a provisionary and leadership way from Kyle. It creates such an amazing environment for our kids that didn't exist before.
So good. So another assertive control is attacking him or his character.
Yeah. So for me, I would say things like, are you just going to be lazy and sit on the couch and scroll today? Or something along those lines that would just attack him, his character, or his choices.
Thank you for your brutal honesty. Yeah, because I know there's ladies watching at home and maybe you don't even say it out loud, but then you think it in your head and then you change the way you act. So that would be passive, even though we're in assertive. But if that's coming out of your mouth or even in your head, it will change the way you show up in the environment in your house. Criticizing the way he does stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that could be I probably have a laundry list of things I could say there, but a common one for us was his driving. Just, him going through yellow lights or taking a curve faster than I would have or taking an exit that I think is slower than the route that I take. Like just constantly commenting on the way that he drives.
Yeah, I feel like most women could be with the driving category. We miss exits, and the old me would get super frustrated and pissed off. Like, can you not pay attention? And Skylar is just free. Yeah. And unknowingly, I had lost that part of me, the playful, free, go with the flow side of myself. And in the beginning, I hated that part of him. Like, can't you just be so focused? And he has been my greatest teacher once I was willing to look at it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts when it comes to control and how that creates an environment or anything you've learned in that?
I think for me is just the freedom that I've found from releasing inappropriate control in my relationships in a whole, mostly in my marriage, but this has bled into my life in general. And I have just escaped from resentment and bitterness, exhaustion, frustration, that survival feeling of like life or death, that I have to be on top of all things or they're going to just crumble and go terribly wrong, to having freedom and flowiness and flexibility and fun and joy just creep back into my life and absorb that energy that I was using to control everything. And now I have space for fun and excitement and love.
I love it. So if you want more of that, Amber has actually a crafted masterclass to go over this. It's 8 weeks or 12 weeks?
12 weeks.
So 12 weeks of integrating and releasing, integrating more fun and playfulness and releasing some unhealthy control. The link will be below.